troubling pattern of trampling basic rights. Detainees, including U.S. citizens, being shipped overseas without any due process. Elected officials are detained for conducting oversight, and a U.S. senator gets tackled to the ground for asking questions at a press conference. This is not the country I know or the values I believe in, and I hope that colleagues on both sides of the aisle will agree with that. Now, to the questions. Yesterday, and I know that Senator Van Hollen raised this issue, a former DOJ attorney filed a protected whistleblower complaint accusing Deputy AG Emil Bove and senior DOJ leadership of defying court orders, including through, quote, lack of candor, deliberate delay, and disinformation, unquote. The complaint also accuses this administration of firing the whistleblower for, quote, telling the truth to the court. These allegations are deeply concerning. Now, I know you said that you can't discuss the case, but can you confirm that you agree that this administration should follow court orders?
We will follow court orders, Senator. The entire administration will follow court orders. The problem arises in the district courts. All these district courts throughout the country are tying our hands. But here's how we will follow them when we get to the United Supreme Court.
I need to ask
we're winning.
A number of questions.
And so, yes,
I know
we're following the orders of the court.
Let me ask my questions. Can you confirm you will not allow any conduct like what is alleged to continue at the DOJ?
I'm not going to talk about anything that's alleged. What I will talk about with you, hold on, you asked me a question and I get to answer it. What you asked me, alleged conduct that's part of a pending whistleblower lawsuit that was filed on the eve prior to Emil Bove's hearing today.
I'm not asking about that
suspicious.
Case
Hold on, let me keep going. I would run through a wall for Emil Bove and Todd Blanche.
Like to continue with my questions. I have very limited time. Thank you. I just want you to confirm for this you will not allow conduct like that at the DOJ. Yes or no?
I will always support and defend Emil Bove, and I will defend Todd Blanche. They are two of the finest people I know, and two of the ethical people I know.
Let me keep going here. Now, in April, DOJ abruptly terminated over 300 public safety grants that had already gone through a very rigorous and fair and apolitical application process with no explanation. This is funding to investigate and prosecute drug trafficking, to support foster care kids who experienced abuse or neglect, to expand access to forensic exams to prosecute violent crimes like sexual assault. These really senseless cancellations have already forced public safety organizations to cut employees and services. So I want to ask you, when you cut off the community-based violence intervention and prevention initiative funding, were you aware it is used to prevent and reduce violent crime?
Yeah, Senator, you weren't here for that, so I'm going to have to repeat myself. We have cut grants. I think we've cut 6%. But if we have cut a grant that you feel should not be cut, please reach out to me. I will personally look at it. We've turned multiple grants back on. Okay. We have an appeal process. But if you want to come to me directly, I would be happy to sit down with you and look at that and help you.
I'm happy. I appreciate
Again, we're doing everything we can.
Okay, but let me just ask you, when you cut off the expanding access to sexual assault forensic examination grant, were you aware that that grant helps our authorities prosecute rape and sexual assault?
I have no idea about that specific grant you're talking about. That's why I said if you want to come sit down with me, I would never cut a grant intentionally that has anything to do.
Recipients on the other end across the country.
Can you give me the details of that grant?
I can absolutely do that, and my staff will get that to you. But those are two critical ones that I just wanted to ask you about today.
Again, we've turned many grants back on, and we'll continue to. If you want to call me, and we can discuss them with you.
Okay, in your budget request, you propose consolidating the Office on Violence Against Women into the Office of Justice Programs. In 2002, Congress actually codified the office as a permanent, separate, and independent office to implement the Violence Against Women Act. We did that to make sure that violent crimes against women receive the necessary attention, expertise, and resources, and to give the office a strong, independent voice within the Justice Department and federal government. Now your department wants to fade that into the OJP, which violates the intent of the law that we passed. It makes grant programs less effective, and it places a lot more barriers for victims and services they need. And I see that you're cutting the office's resources by about a third. So will you commit to us, the Appropriations Committee, to follow the law and maintain OVW as a separate grant entity?
I will follow the law, but I will not keep that as a separate grant entity. You and I can disagree all day long on what the law is.
Well,
that's being consolidated into the Office of Justice Programs. I'm not going to cut, let me answer, I'm not going to cut anything that's going to hurt violence against
not
women.
My question.
It will eliminate
I'm asking, just for your information, Attorney General, in 2002, we codified the office as a permanent, separate, and independent office. So that you need to go back and take a look at that. I know my time is out, but I thank you very much for the time.
She pointed to respected career officials fired for simply doing their jobs. Thousands more face pressure through buyouts and threats of mass dismissals. Entire divisions disappeared, and grants got canceled in ways many called illegal. The independence of the DOJ seemed to erode right before the public's eyes, raising serious questions about whether the department could still function effectively for everyday Americans. Murray didn't stop there. She highlighted a troubling pattern of basic rights getting trampled. Reports described detainees, including U.S. citizens, shipped overseas without proper due process. Elected officials found themselves detained during oversight work. One U.S. senator even got tackled at a press conference simply for asking questions. These incidents painted a picture far from the country many believed in, sparking alarm across party lines about core values slipping away. Murray urged colleagues on both sides to recognize the danger before it went further. The senator then zeroed in on fresh allegations making waves. Just the day before, a former DOJ attorney filed a protected whistleblower complaint. It targeted Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove and senior leadership, accusing them of defying court orders through lack of candor, deliberate delays, and disinformation. The complaint suggested the whistleblower faced firing for speaking truth to the court. Murray pressed Bondi directly. Would the administration follow court orders? Bondi responded firmly that yes, the entire administration would comply, though she noted challenges in lower district courts and emphasized turning to the Supreme Court when needed. She avoided diving into the specific allegations, citing the pending nature of the case, but reaffirmed support for her team. Murray pushed harder, asking for confirmation that such conduct would not continue at the DOJ. Bondi stood her ground, declaring she would run through a wall for colleagues like Bove and Todd Blanche, calling them among the finest people she knew. The exchange grew tense, with time limits and procedural back and forth underscoring the high stakes. Murray insisted on yes or no clarity, while Bondi defended loyalty and process. This back and forth revealed not just policy differences, but deeper rifts over how justice gets administered when political pressures rise. Rumors had circulated for months about loyalty tests influencing decisions inside the department, with reports claiming career staff felt squeezed out in favor of aligned voices. While unverified in full, these whispers fueled speculation about the long-term health of an independent DOJ. Shifting focus, Murray brought up the abrupt termination of over 300 public safety grants in April. These funds had cleared rigorous, apolitical reviews. They supported investigating drug trafficking, aiding foster care kids who suffered abuse or neglect, expanding forensic exams, and prosecuting violent crimes, including sexual assault. The cancellations forced organizations to slash staff and services, hitting communities hard. Murray asked Bondi if she knew the community-based violence intervention funding helped prevent and reduce violent crime. Bondi acknowledged cuts around 6% overall, but stressed an appeal process existed. She invited Murray to reach out personally, noting several grants had already been restored after review. Bondi said she would never intentionally cut something vital and offered to sit down and examine specifics. Yet the questions kept coming. Murray highlighted the expanding access to sexual assault forensic examination grants, which assist authorities in prosecuting rape and sexual assault cases. Bondi admitted unfamiliarity with that exact grant, but repeated her willingness to review details and potentially reinstate support. This moment highlighted real-world consequences. Programs designed to protect vulnerable people suddenly hung in limbo, leaving victims and local law enforcement scrambling. Critics argued the cuts prioritized budget savings over proven safety needs, while supporters saw them as trimming waste. The debate left many wondering about the human cost when funding disappears without clear explanations up front. Murray then turned to a bigger structural change in the budget request. The administration proposed consolidating the Office on Violence Against Women into the Office of Justice Programs. Back in 2002, Congress had codified OVW as a permanent, separate, and independent office to ensure violent crimes against women received focused attention, expertise, and resources. It gave the office a strong voice inside the federal government. Murray warned that folding it in would violate the law's intent, create more barriers for victims, and weaken grant programs. She noted proposed resource cuts of about a third. Bondi responded that she would follow the law but would not maintain OVW as a separate grant entity. The two clashed on interpretation, with Murray urging a closer look at the 2002 statute. This disagreement went beyond one hearing, touching on years of bipartisan efforts to combat domestic violence and sexual assault through dedicated structures. The hearing exposed wider tensions. Murray described an alarming pattern where political directives seemed to override traditional norms. Detainees moved without process, oversight efforts blocked, and career professionals pushed aside, all fed into a narrative of shifting priorities. Bondi and her team countered that reforms aimed at efficiency, border security, and refocusing resources on core threats. They pointed to restored grants and appeal mechanisms as signs of flexibility. Still, the exchange left observers debating where independence ends and accountability to elected leadership begins. Reports of broader staff reductions and division eliminations added fuel, with some insiders claiming morale plummeted as mission focus narrowed. Speculation swirled about whether these changes strengthened justice or introduced new vulnerabilities. As always in such matters, claims remain hotly contested, with each side presenting its version of events. Beyond the specific clashes, the hearing raised bigger questions about the DOJ's future direction. Public safety organizations reported immediate impacts from grant disruptions, cutting services for at-risk youth and violence prevention. Forensic capabilities that help bring perpetrators to justice face delays. Advocates for survivors of violence against women worry that diminished focus would mean slower responses and fewer resources reaching those who need them most. On the other side, administration defenders argued that streamlining reduced bureaucracy and aligned spending with national priorities like immigration enforcement and reducing certain federal overreaches. The back and forth highlighted how budget decisions ripple into courtrooms, communities, and daily lives across the country. As the clock ran down, Murray thanked the chair and wrapped her time, but the issues lingered. Bondi maintained her commitments to law, appeals, and defending her team. The confrontation captured a larger struggle playing out in Washington. One side saw erosion of norms and protections. The other viewed necessary corrections after previous administrations. What emerged clearly was deep division on how the Department of Justice should balance independence with responsiveness to the executive branch. Rumors of further internal shakeups and policy shifts continued circulating in the weeks after, though official statements emphasized ongoing work to serve the public. This hearing wasn't just another budget review.